Thank you. So, okay, another thing I love about this database. So let's see if we picked a lucky one, is it actually lets us have something called compound objects. So we're actually able to scan the back of these postcards and keep it together with one object, which is actually more yeah, thank you for being impressed by that. Thanks. I was very excited about it too. You all clearly are. It's called a compound object. So it's basically we're able to describe both objects. So we have both objects within one record, which is actually more complicated than it sounds. So once again, thank you for the funny thing about the Tim McKay postcard collection is it's organized from southern Humboldt all the way up to like really Del Norte. And so we've done the first 500, so it's really like all like through the red in southern Humboldt, but like more are coming. And one of the projects our interns do, and one of the questions we asked the interns do, is can you read cursive? So they've been transcribing the back of the
yes.
And to be clear, I mean, a lot of the students are not reading cursive. That is not being taught regularly in school. So surprisingly, we have not hired a couple of people because they have not been able to kind of have their cursive tests. So yeah, so if you have grandchildren that are trying to like learn cursive in school, you can say, "Let's get you a job in an archive someday." So that is pretty helpful right now. And when you look at any one of these objects, it's kind of good to note that all of the information we have about this object lives in this object description. So if you know more about something, you can feel free to send us an email. Actually, I was looking at some of the notes for some like the historic houses, and they definitely have Bob Lieberschall says it is actually like 1406 East Street or something like that. But your name could end up somewhere in the archive if you end up helping us identify which one goes where. So those are things I love about this collection. One of the things that makes me a little nuts is it doesn't search the way I want to. So I want to give you some search tips if you're using this. So like originally my search for Eureka Homes, thinking for a minute. Originally my search for Eureka Homes gave 21 results. If I search for like Eureka Home without an S, it'll change it. It doesn't do a truncated search. And we have like a help tip ticket to try to get that fixed, but it makes me, I try to use, so you can both. Normally, good library databases, if I did an asterisk, that would create a truncated search. So it would do Eureka Home, Eureka Homes, and it would finish it for me, and it doesn't, for some reason, see if they fixed it. Cool, they got that email. So anyway, you can jump around this way. Another thing that I like about this database is we have hyperlinked subject heading. And so we're trying to be really consistent in how we describe things. So if you click Eureka, or we click Homes, or we click Eureka, it should give me everything that is marked with that subject heading of Eureka. I hit Eureka for that one. Got a couple of bars. So we're just so it also has our maps in here too. Okay, I can see we're kind of the bars here. I like the. I should use these pauses. Any questions? Any burning things that you want to know? Okay, we got it done. Keep them the next time it freezes. We're just going to do like a call out for questions. Here we go. All right. So one thing to also note is we have a collection list here. So you are able to, right now it's just searching Humboldt County photo collections. So if you want to search across collections or you feel like you're not getting very many results, make sure you hit all collections. One way that's really useful is because of our Schuster aerial photograph collections. How many folks have used this collection before? This is a go-to favorite. This is a group of aerial photographs taken between mid-40s through mid-60s. Schuster would did a lot of like land surveying and would go up in a plane and take photographs for different companies, businesses. Then he would also take photos for his own research interests too. And so we have a collection of these photographs. And I just limited to Eureka, and then I limited to Schuster, and then update here. And so we have 787 aerial photographs of Eureka. And there's, I believe, a little over 3,000 aerial photographs in general of Humboldt County.
You got John Bagley's collection too?
I do not.
Because those two both were from the same time.
This
Doing the
looks
same
even, yeah.
That one's just very far there, hard.
Yeah.
Thousands. It's a great photo. His stuff is at the room at the library and at the next office. Yeah, because they were both flying the same, doing the same stuff. They both have it's, if you're interested in aerial photos, you need to also look into the Fagley's.
Okay.
And if there's some aerial photos from earlier.
Where?
Kenny Kilburn.
Are any of these digitized? No.
Some of Kenny Kilburn's very beautiful.
Okay.
So actually some of Fagley's are because, well, I'm sure there's some.
Well, now I just have to search for something.
But anyway, I'm
Um,
just curious.
Oh. the Kilborn.
Kenneth C. Kilburn. B-U-R-N.
And then
But there's a junior and senior.
search, and then I have to keep it interesting. Hey, select all, updating. All right,
Oh, there's that date. But these are some of these.
so even with that search, and it does index by author or photographer, and so we have 98. Kilburn. It does not necessarily Kinney, but this one probably would be, right? You said it was from the Peter Conquest collection.
Yes.
Oh, is that one you read? Well,
That's
I like that one. I always appreciate Hammond Lumber's giant sign. Real photograph that does it.
When you go back, this, there's a picture of the theater.
Ingomar there.
Seeing Marty. No, is that starting?
See?
That's the, there's the Ingomar, I think there's one inside.
That's
Okay. Well, hopefully this will just inspire you to do, so all of this can be done from the comfort of your home. So you can keep going that way. I think we're gonna head back to the main collection here. So you have the aerial photographs, really important to know about. The other thing is to know about some of the maps that we've recently added to this collection. So Humboldt, the Herrick Land Survey map collection, I just released about 100 additional maps yesterday. So this was a land survey company. They did a lot of stuff between 1890 and 1930. A lot of it is kind of like temperature thing, but then you also have some kind of interesting town planning documents in there as well. So I think there's about 250. So you can, I'm just kind of scrolling through so we can see Parks edition. I think it's like Parks.
Is that Park Street Arcade?
I believe so.
Campus?
And so look up here, there's you can expand it so you can really get big. And zoom in, get pretty nice resolution. If anything looks interesting to you and you want to save it for later, you can actually download it different sizes. This is true for all of our photographs. And we want people to use it. So if you're putting it up on social media or sharing it someplace publicly, just maybe give us a citation or a shout out about where you got it from. If you really want to help future researchers and help me out a little bit, is this map ID or photo ID that you see on all of them. That's the unique identifier for all of our images. So if you ever want to get back to that exact image, just write down that map or photo ID number. Here, it's right, this highlighted right up here. Let me zoom in a little bit. See that number, the 1990-10-0022? Yep. That's the unique identifier. Nothing else in our collection has that number, so we will be able to find it exactly. There is not. We do have a preferred citation, which is basically name the collection and name how calling the library, and then throw in the photo ID number to address. If you are in a for-profit thing, send me a heads up and we can figure out what to do from there. People do it all the time, but for research purposes, for nonprofit use, for just sharing research, no fees, no problem, all of that good stuff. You don't need to. All right, any questions about this archive, this digital archive?
When did you, I mean, I remember, what was it, late 80s or 90s when Joan Williams started this?
So Eric Schiff was the first,
Yes,
and then
Joan.
and then Joan and Edie
Yes.
announced me and Sarah. And everybody, all archivists and librarians of past come and hang out in their archives. So I see everybody regularly. So do you want to say hello? Okay, I'll check it. Good question. Yeah. Yeah. I like that question. I'm gonna go to advanced search. I don't know how, so you can search by dates. I'm not sure of the 15,000 items, how accurate we are on all of the dates. A lot of them are gonna search the dates, because I don't think it lets you limit in that way. And you're because we get that question a lot. But usually the oldest thing physically in the archive is actually like one of our rare books from 1500 sort of thing. But I'm trying to think what the oldest Humboldt related thing we have. Yeah, like there's a map from Russian explorers from like 1811. And I think that's digitized in there, but you can do a little bit of searching by date. You can also assign a date range, which is kind of helpful. So between, and so you could say like I'm interested in 1930 through 1950. I would say I wouldn't 100%. I would start there, but I would never trust that search entirely because of the dates. I don't really trust the dates. That's something though, if you're noticing dates are incorrect or you do know the date for something, you'd love to hear about it. And I think that's something that over time will probably clean up our data. I would probably get really lazy, just type in Russian. So one thing I really like, and you can work on it, there it is. So yeah, so and I don't know if I have my date right. Let me see if I 1848. Like off on that one. But and there's a map. So digitized, available online. And it looks pretty good. It's Trinidad, I think. I don't know. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Not right, no, not, but we could. So I think a couple of reasons why we might remove something is if we are in violation of somebody's copyright. I'm a little loose with copyright sometimes, like the postcards might be questionable whether or not I can actually put those online. I think the other thing is, especially if a travel representative notifies us and goes like, hey, that map's going to be online, or so there's some kind of information that maybe isn't, shouldn't be just publicly available for anybody to do. We can take that on.
So in that case, would the stuff be available in person?
Probably. We do have some collections, Native American collections, that we have a family representative agreement with, which you need to be working directly with this collection with the Creek tribe before you can physically access them.
So here's advanced search.
Yeah, so that was the advanced search that I was popping into.
Yes.
It's just advanced search here. And I can add search rows, but really it's search terms and you can change it. So you can say like, I want to see it by creator. And then I think, let's see if that would work for children. So Kilburn was in the creator file, in the photographer file. So that was a way if you wanted to search by photographer only. Let me show you again, because I sometimes click too fast, so please let me know. But under advanced search up here, I selected all collections, but then I switched which area I want to be searching. And so I switched it to creator, which means it's the photographer. And so it's limiting to photographer search. Good question. Another good question. Yeah. Or bad question.
You read man and main characters plus the
Yeah.
Lewis Sherman East was man's name.
Lewis Sherman East.
East Fair.
East Ferry. I like getting results of at least something when I do a search. So I would be very tempted to just search Ferry and see what pops up in our photo database. But there's a couple, when we get into newspapers and folk directories, that's when we're going to do some good name search stuff. So yep, you can do you can add. I think what they like to do is they make you add a row down there, and then I'm doing add or you have those options. And I like that. That's good searching. Our database is, remember, it's using local words to describe things, and so tease it out a little bit when you're searching, and don't get too specific in your searches. So people don't, when we've been working with these, we might not recognize what you all recognize. So searching for ferry, you might recognize the person that ran that ferry, whereas it might just be categorized as like ferry photo, something like that, right? And so I think kind of broad is more helpful than I'd like to narrow down if I'm not, if I have like 1,000 searches to work with, but any other?
So again, I'm just going to research.
right up there, advanced search, yep,
That's.
that's it. Click on it, you've got advanced search. If you're not getting results, make sure that you've selected all collections. It's easy for some reason for you to get into a collection, then realize that you're only searching that one collection, not across the whole data. Great. I'm gonna hop back over. I think it shows you when I last updated. We do an update whenever we add something, we index it. But I would say it's worth checking. That's great. The other thing, can't get away from this database, is you'll notice we have a lot of, especially our map collections, we're in process of scanning these. And so you'll get a lot of things that say digital copy unavailable. And so that means that we have all the descriptive information, we have where the map is physically located in our collection, and we use this database also to figure out where all the physical locations of maps are located, but we haven't yet scanned it. And so this collection is the next one we're working on a lot right now in the next couple of months, and making sure we get all of those map scans up into this database, so that Humboldt County collection of maps is one to keep an eye on. That and the Tim mutate postcard collection, we expect to see updates there before the end of the semester. And always feel free to send us, we love talking about this for hours, so send us an email and make a phone call, we're happy to talk about it. All right, so I talked a long time about this in the Schuster aerial photograph collection. We have a lot of maps here. We looked at the map database. There's a couple of the spots that maps live in our collection. The Belcher Atlas is one that actually is on our website because we like to link up to this region map. If you're doing any sort of research outside of city limits and you want to see who owned a property in 1922, this map is excellent for that. It's actually hyperlinked, or you can jump around with regions here. But if I click on region 7, and I can kind of see the bay right there. So you get this. This is actually a PDF, but it's beautifully high resolution. And so you can see who owned property in North Spitz. We got Eureka here, but then you kind of go off into like McKay area and Putnam. And so you can kind of, especially if you're working on anything like a bit east, you're going to see some really great property ownership there as well. And really recent. Okay. And so Belcher Atlas. The nice thing, they're all linked up here. So hopefully you've got that first website down, and this is all under photographs and maps. The other one that I'm kind of excited about, and this is Library of Congress, and we also have a link at Archive. Our other folks are digitizing Sanborn maps. Do folks work with Sanborn maps pretty regularly? They're a fire insurance map, and so they provide a lot of information about what a building was made out of, basically how likely it was going to burn down, or how much they should charge for insurance from that time period. And so Library of Congress, I've linked up to a search that limits this to just Humboldt County. They have 39 different Sanborn maps, and within each one of these links is going to be many, many pages. So I was kind of excited to see that 1920, which is one I hadn't looked at as much before, was available. So if you click on, there's actually 88 images of Eureka in this Sanborn map. And so what you end up doing, let's see if I can get a nice big, blow it up. So the way these Sanborn maps work is you end up jumping to the page that's highlighted here. And the other good thing to know about is on this opening page, there's a key. So this is going to tell you what a building is made out of. Was it a dwelling? Was it a brick building? All of that kind of good background information. Skylight, what was at the location? My favorite research question that pops up with these pretty regularly is folks come to look at their property to figure out where the outhouse was, so they can dig for bottles.
Oh, so they can dig.
Yeah, so that's always a funny one to be like, when students are working with someone, they're like, I need to figure out where the outhouse was so I can dig, and they're like, is that really a good plan? But yeah. So I think people use this a lot for outbuildings and things like that too. And this is through Library of Congress, and so hopefully more and more things will pop up. And so you can kind of jump around to different dates there. The Internet Archive also has the 1986 Eureka Sanborn map. Let me click on this. This is actually through Friends of the Redwood Library. Well, somebody brought this down to San Francisco and actually scanned a version. And so we have all the pages here. I'm gonna, 1886. Yeah.
You have an 1884 hiring freeze today. It's called Eureka Survey in the Modern Litigation. It's in color.
All right, let me pull that up too, because I linked up to that. This is good. No, it's I was still up an hour and I'm like, oh my God. Guys are- We're gonna have to like just shut down. So under I'm just our research collections, I linked up to a bunch of other collections that we have that are digitized. There's been so many projects, but they kind of end up in all sorts of different places. So it's really nice to compare for this and kind of make a website that has links to all of this material. But Eureka waterfront litigation collection is what I just mentioned. And then we have some images. Oh, and the Eureka survey. We're gonna go I Eureka survey. All right. Then you can download the PDFs there. Okay. Great. And we're maps everywhere. I love them. All right, I'll get it. I'll get it. Do you have a sheet you want?
Advertisement brought to you by.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Oh, it does. It has that nice texture. Yeah, so. All right. Okay.
You have that original?
Yes, it should be in the Eureka water litigation collection. So it's interesting that reading when you walk in, I'm going to get distracted. These are not digital collections, all of them, but we have a giant collection list. We have about 90 collections that we store in the basement of the library that we pull out if people want to use for research. So if you're planning to come in physically to the library, spend some time looking at our website, in particular our collection list, and let us know if there's stuff from archival storage that you want us to bring upstairs. And some of these collections are huge, I guess. So some like I think we have the Don Clausen collection, right? 144 boxes of material. So I would say with all of our websites, if you don't already do this, Control F is your friend. Like you want to use Control F, especially when you're looking for news. I'm actually going to use this as an opportunity to jump into newspapers and directories. So one project that's happened very, very recently is we've been digitizing the city directories, the Polk city directories, and just some of the, I guess there's Polk directories that cover all of Humboldt County, and then we have some city directories that are just Eureka mainly. And so they've been digitized and they're available. Let's see, I'm gonna pull up 1916 is my favorite because it's giant. But so this is an example from our digital commons repository. So this is where all of the print and publication material ends up. And you can download this. And I've already done it because it's big and I don't want to didn't trust it. And what you get is a city directory, which is great. This is kind of our landing page that ends up in every document. Then you jump in and it's a city directory that is scanned. So I can do Control F. We ran keyword search. And so I've been having a good time searching for apartments or houses. So this is my house and I can see who lives there, what their job was, whether or not they were a boarder or a resident. It's really interesting, actually, a lot. Let me see if I can jump to page 11. So we have abbreviations. So you could like take any sort of information and be like, okay, that's somebody who boards, that's somebody who's a resident. It's like fun, like names sometimes. They're really into abbreviating names. So like John is abbreviated JNO, which feels like you could have just typed in the last letter, but okay. But yeah, so there's like a lot of abbreviations, but once you get into like kind of figuring out who is at your address, you can see what they did for a living. And so we have these things from 1890 to 2010 and physically in the library. The hard part is some of them have reverse address lookup, most of them do not. And so having these keywords searchable where you can actually search an address really changes. So 1916 has a reverse address lookup, 1907 does not.
Most from 1916 to present do. Most of
23 does.
23 was a different publisher.
Okay.
Polk in this narrow window in the early 20s, Polk didn't do directories, somebody else did. But all the Polk directories after 1916 have numbers.
But it's only for Eureka, the other
They
challenge,
stopped
I
doing
think.
more. Years? Yeah. And they combine some.
The 19 yeah.
Arcata has.
That so let's
Arcata.
Arcata has a reverse address lookup. And then let me see, I think I even wrote down what pages the reverse address lookup is. Let me do it so you can see.
So you digitize the.
So we are currently working on it now. So we're working on 1921.
Okay.
So one thing that you'll notice a lot of the material. Back over to. Scroll down. We have. Yeah. 1907, 1903. On this page, I actually link up like the Internet Archive and Google Books has digitized some too that are available freely online. So this is actually a longer list that links up to sites outside of special collections. A lot of what we're working with is things before 1928. So that's our public domain date that we get to work with. Anything before January 1st, 1928 out of copyright. So we're able to digitize and scan it. And so every year, the year gets pushed back a year. So this is like a new set of things we can digitize. But you'll notice that most big libraries are digitizing a lot of things from earlier dates because outside of copyright. All right. So, does anybody want me to look up an address in the book directory? No. Yeah. Okay. So the book directory is there. The other thing that is kind of good to know about is the California Digital Newspaper Collection. So this is an organization just outside in Riverside, and they kind of specialize in newspaper digitization. And so they've been scanning material and have added in the last couple of years some Humboldt County material. And so if we go to Humboldt Times here, we're able to search just Humboldt Times. We have the date range here, so you can see they're sticking with copyright material. And you can actually, so one thing I would really suggest when you're doing newspaper searching, research technique, is to put direct quotes around any address or name that you're looking for. Because if I had done a search without direct quotes, it would look for Annie and Ryan anywhere in a newspaper. So if I had done my address and then 2623 H Street, it would have searched for like 8 followers. I would have had too many results to work with. But when I put direct quotes within the exact phrase search, I'm just thinking for a minute. Then we only have 4 results. The other thing with that quote search though, is it's only searching for Annie Ryan. So if I want to switch up, you might want to do Annie B. Ryan, right? You might want to think about alternate name spelling. Once again, you want to really tease out your search terms when you're working with this stuff. And we can click on it, and it's a pretty nice scan. So it usually highlights the article, and so it has the dates, and it's done a keyword search of that newspaper for us. Oh, this is, we only deal in ghosts in archives. So which,
Special collections, they directly west.
oh, where's
See,
website?
go up. Where's underline? Going up, next one, underline. See, it's
Website. Oh, you know, I'm surprised I didn't, because I copied, yeah, okay, cool. There's gonna be lots of typos in this, because I
Okay.
finished this like an hour before we came here. So. It's been a busy week. Another one I want to highlight that's new, and it looks a little different, is we digitized all of the student newspaper at the Lumberjack, starting from 1929 to present. And so you notice this is in our digital repository. Again, it's a published item. But one good thing to know about this is you can actually keyword search all of the Lumberjacks. And so I was having fun. I did a search for Eureka Heritage Society, indirect quotes, to see what would pop up. And so we get, looks like there were 5 articles. It takes a second, so you get an image, but you actually have to download the item. So it does, you need a PDF reader or something. It does have an extra step in it. It's giving us time down. So it's this is actually a student project that took a really long time. Students actually had to go in and make sure all the keywords and all of the images were accessible. So that's one thing that really slows us down with digitization work, is making sure that it's readable by a screen reader. Because we're a state university, we need to make sure that everybody has access to this material. And so when we're working on this sort of stuff, we have to go through and add alt text to every image. And so it's actually a pretty big project. But I mean, it's important to do. So, and then I think, let's see if it'll highlight it for us. Does anybody know what this article would be about? 1983. We can just Control F.
The 10-year anniversary.
You think? Okay, Ted Loring. So let's see what he is. Step into, so I think it's just about, oh, I think it's actually about the Green Book,
No, it's about.
No,
the-
the Guide to Architecture and Landscape.
Yeah, that's walking.
A walking guide, okay. Yeah, Hal Jackson. Anyway, so that's, I mean, I actually think that's pretty. Oh, okay. Like revenge, like I like it. Great.
Special effect, I like that.
Now they're ghosting.
Perfect. This is all we got. All right, and so I think actually this is pretty powerful to use for a name search. The Lumberjack was published like weekly for many, many, many years. So they're going to be talking about things all over Humboldt County. So it could be a really good, you're trying to do especially 60s, 70s, you think somebody maybe attended Humboldt or a professor there or something. I would really recommend searching this collection. And so just want to highlight again that you enter a search term here and you're searching in this collection, and then it gives you all of those results. And like I said, I'm going to hop back over to University Archives. You can see all the things we're digitizing from the university. So we also have yearbooks. So if you want somebody, we have all the yearbooks scanned and digitized available as well.
How far back do you have them?
We have all of them, but the problem with the yearbooks is they weren't published as much. I think we haven't done the this 1927 one, but the yearbooks, people always call and say like, I need the yearbook from 1990. You know, like the campus is very selective in the years that they actually did the yearbooks.
Senior theses.
Senior theses in our collection? Depends on the departments and the year. The repository will hold all of master's theses and projects. And we're working on scanning versions that go back. We have copies of all master's theses in the library, in special collections, and one copy in the stack that you can check out, and we're starting to work on scanning those. Current theses are all done completely digital. They submit them as like they actually submit a thesis. See that little button? That's what a student does, and then they go through the whole review process, and their faculty sign it through the system. It's kind of amazing. Since I'm in here, I'm also going to show you the press at Humboldt. And so this is where they've been publishing books. And so it's pretty amazing what's happening in the press. They have students that work with authors. And so if you're working like a children's book, we'll have like a student illustrator work with you too. And then they're publishing all sorts of materials. Some of it's actually winning awards. We're also doing reprints. And we have in the trade and scholarly, the way all of Jerry Roby's books that have just recently come out are available in here, and they're free in here. So which is very kind of him to make available. And the student that worked on this with him, let's see. And authors can actually, you can say buy this book too. So you have an option of being able to, so people could buy it and then it would be ordered automatically through Amazon and can go to the author or whatever foundation they want to support. Or we can have it freely downloaded. So that's one of the kind of rules for our library, and for hopefully a lot of other libraries, is making things open access, freely available. We'll let this about downloading, but the student that works with him on this, after graduating, was a history student who didn't really have publishing experience, went off and got a job at a publishing house in Texas, like right after they graduated. And so I think a lot of what we're trying to do with these projects is give students hands-on experience. Ideally, and we're paying them for that experience. So interns and students who work for us all get paid, and hopefully go off to do more archival things. That's something we're really focusing on. And then if you're doing newspaper research, I love the Northwestern California newspaper site. This is this links up to a timeline. So if you're ever thinking about it, wanting to know the history of publishing, especially newspaper publishing or news publishing in Humboldt County, the Northwestern California newspaper site, sorry, I've lost some bars, has really beautiful timelines that can tell you exactly what was published in what decade. And so then you're able to jump around and figure out like, oh, I'm working on 1890. I need to use these different sources. And then from there, we would either have it digitally, but most likely probably going to be a microphone available on the second floor of the library. Any questions?
Do you partner with some of the genealogical websites that?
Like ancestry.com or things like that. Um,
And search. or anything else.
no, I like Family Search because they'll let me do like a couple days free. But we looked into getting that for our library. It's really expensive to have like access for students. So that one is,
So do you have access to the archives at the California State Library and the California History Museum? So those,
only things that they would have digitized. Yeah.
but they would they make that available as you move to campuses?
We could link up or we could do a guide or something, but it's kind of, I think most of the time, well, here, let me show you the timeline really quick, and then I'll talk about like how we work with other repositories.
Okay.
That's great. So like I said, like if you want to see 1890s, you could see all of the major newspapers that were publishing in that decade, work through and then use that title list to kind of figure out what you're working on. It is, we kind of updated in 2020, but really this was the like hard work of Susie Van Kirk, who I can talk about her collection next. But I'm always giving thanks to researcher Susie Van Kirk for all the work she did and kind of how she would organize her research. And one of the things that was fantastic about it, I think I've lost my spot. Go back. This is the danger of when you're showing too many things. I have like 100 tabs open. At the end of every day, it's like I have to close out. So we're hopping into research collections here, and the Susie Van Kirk reports. So Susie Van Kirk was a local researcher. She was excellent at using newspapers, and people would often hire her to work on projects. And we received her collection when she passed away, and a lot of the collection was actually digital already. I mean, at this point, she was working right up until 2016, and so some of this material was already digital, and so we automatically just put it as a report available in Digital Commons. And I have to say, this is some of the most used collections that we have. If you look at, so for example, depending on what you're working on, a lot of it's going to be kind of a little bit farther out into Redwoods, but this one I was like, the Lolita Creamery research notes. This is a great one that she did. But a lot of our collections, it will actually indicate how many times it's been downloaded. And this has been downloaded almost 2,200 times in the last couple of years. So it's kind of amazing to see the research impact. It's just thinking about times. And so it's something else to download. So that's gonna be another project we're focusing on, is we have some of her print reports. And so we're gonna work on scanning those and getting those up online as well. Just because they're so popular. We're just running a little short in time. Like, we are also working on digitizing our audio visual material. So it's fun in the archive in the basement. We often find like really interesting material that has been hiding around. So we've one collection that I kind of love, I wanted to show you all was we have a group of U-matic tapes from the 1970s and 80s that were used at News Channel 3 for their local point of interest stories. So we recently digitized those, and they're available when the internet is working. Through here, you can search for point of interest.
Think you'll ever catch up?
No,
That's the beauty of it.
everybody's dropping off stuff on, like we're trying to at least. No, but I mean, it's I think it's hard to even just organize and describe all of the paper documents. I mean, you all have the archive next door, right? I mean, it's like it takes a lot of work to just make something available, and so on top of it, just digitizing it. That's like scanning documents is pretty easy to do, honestly. It is sitting down and describing a document so it's findable in a database among 15,000 other items. That takes a little bit of work. So that's where it really slows us down. Really thinking about the internet. We'll keep moving on and see if it pops up. But these are some examples. So the Eureka Waterfront litigation collection that Bob mentioned. I tried to add links to all the different types of material that might be useful in research. And then we also have some ebooks, so electronic books that I've been online because of that 1928 copyright date. We're finding more and more things, especially on the Internet Archive. And so I'm going to actually jump down to our digital collections database, and this is kind of fits in with your California State Library question. So let's see if it'll open up. See, the internet worked for most of the time. So okay. So these are some examples of like consortiums where it's like libraries and universities and big museums are all adding their material to, you can have like a one-stop shop for searching. So, like, for example, the Digital Public Library of America, I've been using that a little bit. This is where this is really the big one. It's DP.LA, so it's pretty easy to get to, but all like so New York, so Library of Congress, National Archives, Harvard, all these big universities are putting all of their digital collections in here, so you can search across all these different places. And then it often will link out to that original institution. So it's like they're still getting clicks and the information, but you're able to kind of search broadly. There we go. So we have, it's at, I think, 47 million items are in this collection. And you can see like all of the different partners and all the different places, and they have different kind of subject areas. But if you do a search of like Humboldt County, California, which so there's about 3,000 items in this collection, including like a lot of boosterism brochures from University of California. So if you were interested in seeing this item, it tells you what institution has it. I can say view full item. And it will take you a link to University of California and be able to kind of search there.
And these are resources.
All free. Same, and if you're interested in specifically the California State Library, Calisphere is a partner with the State Library and the UC system, and then the Calisphere, so it's right the second one down. And so that is where all of the archives, like we even have material in this, all the UCs, the State Library runs it. So this is where a lot of digital material for the state of California ends up.
Okay.
And so that would be if somebody came in and asked me a question about the State Library, that'd probably be my first spot to hop over to see what they've been adding to their collections. A couple other, so Library of Congress is always fun. If you're looking for maps, this David Rumsey map collection is actually out of Stanford now. Stanford has received his collection of, I think he has even more now, but it's like 100,000 maps. It covers the entire world, but they're really, Stanford is really recommended to having communities. This is a very robust and big database, and they have some nice GIS features where you can zoom in and out and highlight a map area of the map if you're interested in finding more maps of that area. So Calisphere, so University of California, but then you can see it's also partners with the California Digital Library. And we have material in this collection as well. And so you can see under contributing institutions, and then statewide partners, so all the UCs, and then all of the different state libraries and archives that are adding to it. So I'm pleased to feel, I think a big initiative is folks are digitizing it. So the stuff we have in content team is there if you want to search just Humboldt County. If you want to go broad and see what other places have, it's nice to be able to link up and search in one spot. So I think those are pretty useful. And then kind of where I like to search for historic books is the Internet Archive. Have folks use that a little bit before? So that's this is actually out of San Francisco. It's a nonprofit. And they've been digitizing all sorts of formats of material, but they have a lot of books in their collection. Let's just see what happens with Humboldt County. I keep on. Just grab the first one. It looks like an advertisement. I love their page flip. So they have, you know, this is a boosterism tourism books. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. And so they'll often, and this is for California Commissioners of Humboldt County. So it's from, I'm trying to figure out if I can see which UC Davis, the owner of this. So they happen to have it, gave a copy in our archive, and they made access to it. And you can zoom in. The other thing I like about anything in Internet Archive is you're able to search. If we want to just search for Eureka, it'll show you every page that it's mentioned in it. It's all nice and viewers. And a similar one is Happy Trust. That one is very similar to the Internet Archive. It is, I can't remember which university it's out of. I think University of Michigan, so it has a little bit more of university collections in there, but it is a really good source. A lot of times there'll be things in Internet Archive and they often duplicate because I think they're sharing. So, but both of those would be my go-to. Oh, that's an old book. It's before 1928. Before, you know, if you wanted to just have a copy readily available, do an exact phrase search with the title, so put quotes around the title, do a search in Internet Archive or Happy Trust, because all of these have like millions of books, so you want to do that exact phrase for search and see what pops up there. All right, and then just to kind of, any other questions about this? So hopefully, so like all the links will just do this and you'll be able to work as you're doing your research through this webpage. A little bit. So these are just some of the students who've been working on projects. So that's their giant map center over here. These are actually interns working this semester. They're working with the Freeman Studio collection. So Bruce Pettit donated that collection, and they've been organizing, describing the glass plate negatives. And there's some really good word stuff. So I'm very excited. I finally found them. So look for that collection. It's not going to be digitized for a little while, but it's going to be available for research. So you can pop in and say, like, I want to look at all of the Days of General Grants folders, and we'll have them available and ready. And then these are all
What are those plates?
it's the Freeman Studio collection. So it's not Emma Freeman, but it's stuff that came out of their studio after they sold them.
Mostly 20s, 30s.
30s mainly, really. Yeah. Lots of agriculture, some good street scenes of things I haven't seen before, so I like that. And there are about 10 folders of Days of General Grant from 1937. So if you're trying to do any research in that specific parade, we got you covered. Yeah, and then these are all the students that helped move, so I really appreciate that. It took moving into that new space took an entire semester, so it was an adventure.
I don't think it was an understanding. Are you down regular for maintenance, server maintenance, or is there a schedule?
It shouldn't. We get notices, but the content, it shouldn't be down very often, because the system that we use is used by most universities and archives, and so it would be the thing if it goes down. The index usually. There's a couple that do it on the weekends at night, but it doesn't seem to be usable. And it would mainly be updates. It wouldn't be the system down. All right, any other questions? So yeah, it's that first link. Let me put that back up just so in case people need to take a photo. It says libguides.humboldt.edu EHF. Totally, yeah. It's there, but there's no username or password required for anything else. All freely available. What are some of the research that folks are working on? Yeah, I would use the full directory to research an address as a starting point, and then I would take those names and start plugging those names into newspapers, into the photo database. I would do an Internet Archive search with direct quotes, with the quotes around the name. So once you find a name of who's lived there, use that exact phrase search and see what pops up in some of those newspaper databases, particularly photo database, things like that. Yeah.
Are the CD data found papers?
No.
No, really hard to find things. in the-
They're really hard to find things in, and they are all in cursive, so it's not like I can run an easy
Right.
like text reader on that.
And
So,
the copies of it, oral, even
Yes.
originals.
yeah, we do have the originals, and we have them. So microfilm is easy to digitize. You can put it in something and it just runs it, but that doesn't. It's not going to be useful if it's not keyword searchable. We do have some that have been digitized forever. The link here. It's like the HOOPA stuff has been digitized. So, but it's still not keyword searchable. It's like you still need to know which volume you want to look at. So I have different volumes and pages that you can. So there's some. But not keyword searchable still. So it's going to be a slow slog. The Susie Baker fountain papers. But the Susie Baker fountain papers are available outside of special collections. There are these big blue volumes that talk about local history. And they are available anytime the library is open. We're open till midnight. So if you ever wanted to do late night research, you could come in and hang out if you wanted to. And there's actually students that you could probably find pizza from somebody if you needed it.
I was just going to ask that. Do you do library cards anymore or not?
So students automatically get them because they're ID. And there is a lot of stuff that is available that we pay database subscriptions to that I did not show you all today. And most of them are not local research. I think part of like our ethos and special collections is we just a lot of people who use our collections are community users, so we don't want to limit it to students. But there's like, some really great, like, if you wanted to look up Prime Standard, it's available like for the last 30 years in LexisNexis, which is a city database. So it's not available publicly, it's only available to students with library cards. And they don't really get library cards, it's more like you just need to know your username and password, everything that you need. Except books. Students do check out books, and they can check out unlimited books. They get them for the whole semester now, so they get their library card for that. And we also do interlibrary loan. And then they also, we have a lot of technology students check out. So we have like, students are working on a lot of digital projects. So like podcast equipment, videos, all of that stuff. Any student can check out 360 cameras, like GoPro, like all sorts of things that students are working on. They're doing pretty interesting projects. Yeah.
Well, I remember with Ollie, we joined Ollie up there, we would get the library card. You don't think that to be a student.
That was
I think
nice.
that
It
was
was
nice.
nice,
I don't think that's there anymore. Because the databases that we subscribe to have rules about who has access to it, and so that's why it got
Oh.
taken off.
Okay, so Ollie just had-
Because you got cut off.
Yeah, or at least they're not gonna have access to the database. Yeah, that's a tough one. Other questions?
Is there any way to discover things like natural gas as it produced to certain parts of?
I think the Stanford map actually have some of it. You can see where pipes are in Stanford map too. So I'd be kind of curious to see leave that, and then a newspaper search again. I think that newspaper search like gas and then a certain address could be something interesting. Oh, I also think, I'm sorry, I didn't even get into the county resources. Because that might be available in like for like building permits. You know, where gas lines, I might not know when the first gas line is in, but I do have a link in here. I am not an expert on the GIS portal, and it was breaking my computer at work, but I would do a lot of work. It is in here. So if you look under, I didn't even talk about collections and other repositories. I linked up to the GIS portal for Humboldt County. Historic Eureka, which you all, it seems like a lot of stuff is from the Heritage Society in there, but they have the. Still thinking about everything. The GIS portal is amazing when you have a good internet connection, because there are so many layers and aerial photographs that you can even pull up. But you need the moment. But the Historic Eureka has historic house registries on it by address and parcel number, and then the Eureka History is a great map that it links up to that talks about, like, it uses the green book to describe all the historic properties. And I think the Heritage Society probably.
That's a project.
You're on that too, Chuck, right? So I point at you, then it works either way.
We gotta.
To do that. So, and this is your history, it's great, it's super fun. And then you zoom out, so it has all of them in different zones. Yeah, and so you click on one, more info, and so some of them have photos, some of them don't, but it gives you at least like. Right, and then it looks like it has images that we might need to click on to make work, but. And you can, I think, you have some really nice filters in there, so you can like limit by different dates, right? I kind of love that. And oh, they have tours too. So if you're walking around and you want to see like, you know, a street tour. It kind of.
You used to be able to send, if you knew something that wasn't on there, you used to be able to send. It's a computer log on it. And.
It's great. It's working great though. So I really like it. Okay. I appreciate it. So that is also within this under collections of other repositories. I also linked up to this UC Merced. Yeah, UC Merced actually has this just kind of discovered it in prepping for this a collection of material related to agriculture in Humboldt County. I'm going to link up to this on the special collections main page too. But it's called the Humboldt County UC Cooperative Extension Records. It's in Calisphere, so it's in that kind of California database that I was talking about. And I also linked up to it right over here. The reason I like it, or the way I kind of realized it was useful, is we have a lot of researchers looking at, we have a vegetation and soil and vegetation survey. So especially people who are working in like timber stands, and want to see like what's being planted or what was where, and I think it's from the 60s. This is 49 to 62. So there's actually a series of maps for different areas that talk about what is planted in these areas or what planted in the 60s. And it covers, I think they've done 51 items, so I think it covers almost all of Humboldt County. And so when you're working, it's only a set group of years. It looks like 40 to 60, so it's not present, but it's historic. But you can see which section of Humboldt County you're working in this little key. And so we have these physically in the library, but I've been looking up this now because it's so much easier for us to just be able to look online and be able to save it. And if you ever see a map or something that you wish we had online, you can let us know and I'll scan it and get it up. Or we could even, we have an oversized scanner. So if you have something that you want a student to help you scan, ideally like not 100 maps, but like if it's not anything extra to do, and we could work like with folks who can scan. We also have like 5 scanners, like flatbed scanners in our state. And then we have something called a copy stand, so we can take photographs of rare books too, with like lighting on other stuff. So students are pretty adapted using things digital. So that's available if you need it or when you see it.
Tell them.
Oh, I know. Oh, people can. Did anybody chat anything? Okay. They're hopefully they're just like lost in the look.
What was your background? How did you get into this?
So I filmed. So I went to school at University of Vermont and went to grad school at USC to study film history. And then when I graduated, I started working at the Academy of Motion Pictures Film Library. And so I always worked in libraries. This is actually what I want to do. So I went to get my library science degree. And then my partner came up here to study forestry at Humboldt, and I kept doing that and I really liked it. And so I been working. And then I met Joan, who I did an internship at this library, and I think Joan's great, but I like plugged myself there for a little while. So I got to work with her for about 5 years and retired. I'm gonna work from there. So it's back just history from the background, library geek on top of it, but there is a master's in library science that most all the librarians can get. So they do train you in it for a couple years, and it's fun to hear other people's research questions, and not an expert in anything. I just get to like do a flavor of everything. So that's great. And I really like the technology component of it too. So I work with a lot of students like digital humanities projects and figuring out what. I feel like it's really satisfying when you've had a tech problem and you finally get it to work after like a day. It's like the moment I wait for. I don't like it in the moment, but once I figure it out.
It's definitely not current catalog of history.
No, I feel like students are. I had a student the other day who was like, we pulled up because we have so much obsolete technology, and that same. Well, no, so a floppy disk, right? I mean, not even like a real floppy one, but like a a little hard one, and they were like, oh. I was like, no, the save button is on floppy disk, like that exists. They didn't know what like it. So it's really funny, yeah. I mean, students now like were born in, like after the millennium, well after the millennium. So it's
how to do dialogue.
Yeah.
I bet they didn't see them.
You can't read curse, you can't try to stick shit.
Hey, but if you're looking for information or something, like they're gonna find it on their cell phone in like 2 minutes and fact check you in no time at all. So like they got, I don't know. And I think the students at Humboldt are really they're trying to do stuff, like they're really interested in hands-on experience, and they're definitely trying to do things that are like make a difference. So I really like the student body.
Well, tell them thank you.
Yeah, right. It's amazing.
There's
So
people like us that appreciate that. So it's nothing.
I will. They'll be very excited here. They're helping me prepare, so I'll let them know that their research and work is going to be used. So.
Yeah.
Great.
I have a side question. Okay. How's the basement treatment of the collections?
It's not leaking. It's really crowded, but I want to know what the fundraising thing is going on right now. It's like I said, we have basement storage, and it is very full. Like it is full. But I mean, there's just no other. And so we are fundraising to get collapsible storage. And so that's the big fundraising effort. In the next 5 years, I'm hoping to have a more kind of archival grade storage facility, and we're figuring out areas in the basement that special collections is having a grant to over everything. It seems to be working. But it's gonna, it's a big, it's like grant, like national grant. It's a big thing. So, yeah,
That's good.
but the more people use this material, it's easier to make that art.
Yes.
And we're making it available. And stuff, so. Yeah, so it's nothing is wet. I've been checking, so that's good.
No,
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I just say basement, it's like, oh, no.
Yeah,
Well, this one.
it is, but it is it's a dry basement.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah, it's a dry basement, but it is a basement, and it is Humboldt County. And it's funny, like at archival conferences, archivists are really into relative humidity and temperature, because one of the things we're always monitoring the state mold for us what's happening. And so the thing that we have going for us is it's cold. So most of the time we aren't having mold issues, but whenever people like archivists are complaining about like, oh, we have a relative humidity of like, 60% or something like that. Humboldt's like most of the time is like in the middle of the 90s. We're lucky that we stay cold, I would say. For now at least, so let's stay cold. Yeah, and the basement also stays cold. That's another thing it has going for it. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
See your cards.
Yes, oh, card, and then if anybody wants, I have these folders, and you can get them, if they say HSU library, so they're collector's items. But they have packets about special collections and the press and our newsletter too. So if anybody wants those, yeah, I don't have too many, but yeah, we can share. I'd love to share them all though. And then if anybody wants a card, I have a good.
Oh, last time we put them away.
Anybody else want a little?
Great. Nothing's gonna happen. Thanks again for your presentation.
There's a couple in there. I accidentally grabbed my old card, so I think you got the folder.
She's got it.
Okay, there's a card in there.
Great, that's perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay, great. See, I brought this. Yes. These
Thank you so much.
Yes, but those are old cards. They still work. They
all
they
these,
still-
like,
I see if I have a new one. Okay,
It's fine.
yeah, I think the contact information is the
Yeah, something. Actually,
same. Okay.
yeah, you want them?
I'm not receiving or a newspaper that something might have read or around 2019.
Jason,
Is that the last one?
yes, and I'd love you to take it.
Thank you.
That's good. Great. I wanted to get rid of this. It's beautiful. Okay, so let me show you. I'm just gonna, what's about it? Thanks. We can just.
Yeah, that's why.
Okay, thanks for attending.
Getting better than
Yes,
last week.
yes. That's not- But will you stop?
And